You've probably been told that if you want something to work, you have to take control of it. Your emotions, your future, your timing, your healing, everything. And maybe you've gotten good at it. Good at keeping it all together. Good at staying 3 steps ahead. Good at fixing things before they fall apart. You know how to push, how to manage, how to hustle your way into stability. But here's what no one talks about. Eventually, even control starts breaking you. You can do everything right and still feel out of sync. You can stay on top of your habits, your goals, your mindset, and still feel disconnected. You start noticing that the tighter you grip, the more life resists you. The more you try to hold it all together, the more drained you feel. And maybe, deep down, you've started asking yourself the question most people avoid. What if all this effort is the very thing keeping me misaligned? Because that's the thing about control. It doesn't create alignment. It creates pressure. It creates rigidity. It creates a version of life that you have to constantly maintain. And the second you stop, it collapses. But what if life doesn't need your pressure to work? What if it just needs your trust? You've probably felt it before. That quiet resistance underneath everything you're trying to fix. That tension in your chest when something isn't going your way. That low-level anxiety when you don't have all the answers. And instead of sitting with it, your first instinct is to manage it, to fix it, to make it make sense, to regain control. Because control gives you the illusion that you're safe. That if you stay sharp enough, self-aware enough, emotionally regulated enough, nothing will catch you off guard. But the problem is, life doesn't follow your script. It doesn't care how many mental checklists you've made. It doesn't care how many times you've rehearsed the outcome. It moves how it moves. And the more you try to force it to follow your plan, the more misaligned you feel. Alignment doesn't come from micromanaging your reality. It comes from surrendering to it, from letting go of the belief that your value is tied to how perfectly you handle everything, from releasing the idea that things need to look a certain way for you to be at peace. Because real alignment doesn't happen when you finally get your life under control. It happens when you stop resisting where you already are, when you stop controlling the timing, the outcome, the feelings, the pace. When you stop putting yourself in a mental chokehold trying to make everything make sense. And maybe the version of you you've been trying to become, the calm one, the aligned one, the one who doesn't react. Maybe that version doesn't require more effort. Maybe it requires less gripping, less explaining, less fixing, less managing your way through every single emotion just to feel safe. Because alignment doesn't come from effort. It comes from honesty. And you can't be honest when you're always trying to look like you've got it all together. And the moment you begin to let go, really let go, you notice the shift in places you didn't expect. Not in your mind first, but in your body. The pressure in your chest eases. Your shoulders soften without you forcing them to. Your breath deepens without needing a meditation app. You stop tensing up every time something doesn't go as planned. Because now you're not bracing for life. You're meeting it. You stop rushing through conversations in your head before they even happen. You stop preparing for emotional emergencies that never arrive. You stop trying to outthink disappointment, because now you trust that if it comes, you'll be able to feel it without being destroyed by it. Letting go doesn't make you passive. It makes you present. And in that presence, things start aligning. Not because you're forcing them to, but because you're finally not in the way. You're no longer editing your emotions before they're allowed to exist. You're no longer running ahead of life trying to prevent chaos. You're no longer playing God with your own timeline. And strangely, things start working. Not in the way you expected, but in the way they were always meant to. Opportunities show up that you didn't plan for. People enter your life who feel effortless to connect with. Answers rise that you weren't even looking for. Because now you're quiet enough to hear them. You move differently too. You speak slower. You listen without trying to solve. You wake up without dread. Because you're not carrying the invisible burden of holding the universe together. You don't feel in control, but you do feel in rhythm. And that's the difference. Control is exhausting, rhythm is natural, and when you stop trying to master life, life finally has space to meet you. And once you start living in this rhythm, not by force, but by release, your relationship with uncertainty completely changes. It stops being something you try to eliminate. It stops being something you constantly work against. It becomes something you can actually stand inside of, without panicking, without overthinking, without feeling like you're falling behind. You stop asking, when will this make sense? And start asking, can I stay with this, even if it doesn't? You stop making your peace conditional on outcomes. You stop needing the next step to be clear before you're willing to take it. And for the first time, you start trusting something deeper than your mind. Because the truth is, timing doesn't obey your tension. It doesn't bend just because you're impatient. It doesn't speed up when you're anxious. And it doesn't slow down when you want more time. But the more you relax into what is, the more timing seems to cooperate anyway. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped interfering. And the more you stay in that space, the more you see how many of your struggles were self-created. Not on purpose, not because you were doing something wrong, but because you were trying to protect yourself with effort. Effort that came from fear. Effort that said, if I don't try harder, it won't work. If I don't manage it, it will collapse. If I don't stay alert, I'll miss everything I'm meant for. But alignment doesn't arrive because you stayed alert. It arrives because you stayed open. Open to the discomfort. Open to the slow moments. Open to the plans falling apart so something real could finally come in. Open to letting life move in ways that don't match your logic, but somehow feel exactly right. And suddenly, effort becomes optional. Not because you stop caring, but because things start flowing in ways you could never have predicted when you were trying to run the show. You don't stop taking action. You just stop trying to control the outcome of every step. You still move forward, but now it's from clarity, not pressure. Now it's from presence, not performance. Now it's from trust, not tension. And as this shift deepens, something even bigger starts to unravel. Your identity. You begin to realize just how much of who you thought you were was built on control. How much of your self-worth came from being the one who had it all together. The one who could manage emotions, predict outcomes, fix situations before they cracked. You were proud of it, and maybe it even protected you. You became the reliable one, the strong one, the emotionally aware one, the one who could hold it all, and hold everyone else too. But when you start letting go of that control, even a little, you start meeting the version of you underneath all of that effort. The version that isn't always managing, the version that doesn't have a plan, the version that doesn't need to perform balance in order to feel valuable. At first, it's unsettling, because control gave you structure. It gave you a sense of identity, even if it was exhausting. And now you're stepping into a space where you don't have to keep proving you're okay. And suddenly, okay starts to feel different. Okay doesn't mean polished. It doesn't mean unreadable. It doesn't mean endlessly composed. It means real, present, responsive instead of reactive, soft instead of strategic. You start saying what you mean, even if your voice shakes. You stop explaining yourself when silence says more. You stop bending in conversations just to keep the peace. Because now your peace isn't something you're willing to trade, just to be accepted. And that changes everything. You're not the version of yourself you created just to survive. You're becoming the version of yourself that knows survival isn't the goal anymore. And alignment doesn't require you to earn it with perfection. It just asks you to stop abandoning yourself in the name of control. You don't need to make every moment work. You don't need to fix your thoughts before you speak. You don't need to rehearse who you are to feel safe being seen. You just need to stay with you. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when things don't go to plan, even when you feel exposed, uncertain, unpolished. Because now you know, you're not here to get it all right. You're here to get real. And real doesn't live in control. It lives in trust. And once you've stopped gripping so tightly, something strange happens. Not everything falls into place overnight. Not everything makes sense. But the way you respond to life, that changes completely. You're no longer waiting for things to be perfect so you can finally breathe. You're no longer watching your emotions like they're liabilities. You're no longer living life like a series of problems to solve. You're just in it, finally, unfolding, moment by moment, not planning your way through it like a chessboard. You begin to notice that peace isn't this huge dramatic feeling. It's the absence of that constant internal resistance. It's the quiet space underneath all the thoughts you used to chase. It's the simple fact that you don't need to monitor every moment anymore to feel okay. And because you're no longer constantly managing life, you start to actually experience it. Not in hindsight, not after you've analyzed it, but as it's happening. You start being with yourself instead of ahead of yourself. You start trusting a version of you that doesn't need to have all the answers before you take the next step. And slowly, that trust grows. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop spinning your wheels in the name of being prepared. You stop waiting for permission from life, from others, from your own fear, just to move. You feel your presence starting to take up space again. Not loudly, not performatively, but steadily, calmly, confident in the quietest way. You realize you can actually rest now, not just sleep, but rest from the exhausting job of being on guard all the time. You realize you can actually receive now, not because you worked for it, but because you're finally open to it. You realize you can live from flow, not because you mastered something, but because you finally stepped out of your own way. And it's in this space, where there's no more control left to cling to, that life begins to feel like something you're in relationship with, not something you're at war with. It responds differently. It softens around you when you soften. It moves when you stop pushing. It supports you, not because you demand it, but because now you're actually letting it. Eventually, it stops feeling like something you're trying to do, and starts becoming who you are. You don't have to remind yourself every day to let go. You just do. You don't have to fight your thoughts to stay present. You just return, gently. You're not performing presence. You're inhabiting it. And life, it starts moving around you differently. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in small, almost invisible ways. You begin noticing how little you need to interfere. You watch how things resolve themselves when you stop managing them. You see how people shift when you no longer need to control the energy in the room. You feel how your body softens when it's no longer preparing to defend itself all the time. An alignment doesn't look the way you thought it would. It's not some perfect version of your life coming together like a puzzle. It's not control dressed up in spiritual language. It's not you feeling calm 100% of the time. It's you not abandoning yourself when you're not calm. It's you staying centered even when you're uncertain. It's you trusting the process without needing to label every step. It's you breathing through discomfort instead of trying to outthink it. It's you letting conversations unfold without managing the outcome. It's you letting the day happen without orchestrating every second for maximum safety. And more than anything, alignment is you not waiting for life to be perfect before you allow yourself to enjoy it. You begin to understand that peace wasn't ever waiting at the end of control. It was buried beneath it, suffocated by all the effort, all the rules, all the pressure to get it right. Now you're not getting it right. You're just getting real. You stop asking if you're doing enough. You stop questioning whether you're behind. You stop comparing your pace to someone else's timeline, because now you're in rhythm with something that can't be measured. And that rhythm, once you feel it, it's yours. You don't have to force it. You just have to trust it. And maybe that's the shift, not controlling every outcome, but trusting that things align when you stop forcing them. You don't need to figure it all out. You just need to stay present through the parts that don't make sense yet. So if something in you softened, drop the word open in the comments. Let that be your quiet reminder. You're done gripping. And if you want more space like this, subscribe. I'll keep showing up with the same energy. No pressure, no perfection, just real alignment.